All right, welcome to In Retrospect. This is the quarantine edition. We are, as you can see from this back camera angle, probably 20 feet?
Yeah, it's like
15,
18 feet apart.
Don't be near people. So we said, well, we still need to make podcasts and we need to talk about what's going on in the world. So we figured, well, let's just set up some desks, come out of the podcast room and just kind of talk about what's going on right now with COVID-19 and just businesses and how to kind of function in this new world. And Jason, I know obviously owning two businesses, you've kind of been very heavy into this in the past couple of days. What are your kind of thoughts on like, what are we doing? Where are we going?
Yeah, it's funny. I thought you were going to say having owned two businesses, you're very blessed. But then I was like, no, it's the opposite of that right now. No, obviously owning Climb Tulsa, which is a gym, we actually closed the day before the mandate just because we felt like it was the right decision to do to help slow any possible transmissions of COVID-19. It is a very, very interesting time. I would say that luckily for me, I have certainly always operated in a spend less than you make mode. So to that, both companies are in a pretty healthy place, which is good. At the same time, we have to think about the future of when things operate again, making sure that, my businesses and also our clients at Retrospec, that they are making all the right decisions to propel themselves into a better future, a more profitable future once this is over. So, certainly, we're not an accounting firm. We're a filmmaking company, but we spend so much time in the advertising space, in the marketing space, creating social media content, managing social media pages, that honestly, the last 3 weeks have felt like we're a PR firm a little bit. Maybe because we're still operating. Luckily we've got this massive studio out in Broken Arrow and most of us are working remote. So there's, 20 of us here at Retro. And I'd say about 17 of those people have taken their computers home and are working from home. And we also, we have tremendous amounts of footage for our clients. And so, it's completely shifted what we're working on.
Yeah, Nathan, and you have been a lot on the client front as well, and you've seen a lot of things that, were booked and set in stone, have just now pushed and moved. But then we've also seen a lot of things come up out of nowhere in response to this. Maybe you can speak a little bit to that and how that's kind of affected how we are moving.
Yeah, just piggybacking off of what Jason said, I just received a phone call about taking footage that we've had already and creating new content for that. And I think that's a big portion of what we are seeing and will see as we come down the pipe. In fact, I read an article, I sent it to you guys the other day, that it says that there's a hunger for programming that can be created in its majority, if not entirely, in post-production. So I think one shift is, what do we have in our hands and how can we meet our clients? And how can we meet their needs? So obviously, we have seen, and Jason, you can kind of talk to this, but we've seen some clients who have obviously suffered. At this point, this virus and this environment and the economy is affecting everybody. But we have seen some people choose to actually increase their content and exposure online.
Yeah, it is, obviously we weren't intending to make this podcast all about a virus. And I've always taken the road of, let's just focus on the positive things in life. But, right now, if you ignore this, then you're living in a cave all by yourself on another planet. In regards to, how I've seen it impact businesses, I've probably had, 6 to 8 phone calls with clients of ours or friends of mine that are like, I just laid off 50 people. I just laid off 100 people. We just laid off the entire office. So it is certainly having a massive impact on everybody that's around us. We have seen the shift in the need to connect more online. And it's a strange, uncharted territory that we're walking into. I personally am not a gigantic fan of living in a virtual digital world, but right now that's where we are. And everybody is desperate to make certain that they can stay connected with their clients. And so yeah, it's been interesting because a lot of our larger projects, documentary projects, various things that require traveling around the world have pushed because we're not flying places into the future of the unknown. But then a lot of our, probably more retail driven, transactional driven, automotive dealership, different types of companies like that are like, hey, we need to do more. We need to connect with our people. We need to up the amount of content that we're putting out on social media platforms and on the internet and on YouTube and Facebook and Instagram. And so, it's kind of weird because on one part of me, I'm like, oh no, the whole world's going digital. On another part, I look at our clients, I care tremendously about our clients. And so we're ready to go. We pull out the hard drives. We've still been actually filming. It's just been under very different circumstances where we're primarily not around people. And many times we're the only people there and we're all spread apart from each other. But we have still been able to capture some content that's specific to what's going on. And then, the resurrection of old content. I mean, we have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hours of footage that we've collected over the last 20 years in business here. So we've been able to resurrect a lot of those things and come up with new creative concepts in post-production.
Another thing too is that we've been talking about is how we, looking at, like you said, you mentioned a PR company, looking at how we shift the message and being very careful. In that same article, it talked about not wanting to seem opportunistic, but what lines do we play with that, right? So we have a lot of content that goes out. We're writing social posts and pages. We're looking at videos that we're creating. And I would say as a nature of just this building and Retrospec is that we are just going after it all the time. So how do we dive in, right? How do we keep wanting to grow? I think naturally everybody in the building wants to push and go and grow and take ground, but also thinking about the message and the environment and are we taking ground right now, or are we, which is by nature what we do, or do we shift the message and speak a little on that?
Yeah, I mean, I made the comparison yesterday, and it still kind of is hard to think about or visualize about that scene in Forrest Gump when the boat comes back in the harbor after the storm and there's boats crashed everywhere. But it really is true, and most people that have been in business for a long time know that when recessions happen, the playing field changes. And it's not good because honestly, I've always believed that I like to see everyone successful. But what you do find when a hard storm comes is that some people won't hang on and others do. And the ones that do will find themselves on the other side of that storm with more opportunity to make up the ground that they've lost. And so I certainly, at least for this company, I don't like to think of us as a war profiteer, for me, it's very, and in fact, in all reality, most of the conversations we're having with our clients is how can we charge you less and do a whole lot more? Because for me, I'm thinking about the longevity of our clients and how can they make it through the storm with us. If we can make it through the storm together, then when it's over, maybe business is going to explode. And I'm trying, it's hard. I can't watch the news all the time because that negative energy, even though it may be very real and it's good to know, sometimes can put me down. And I'm just like, oh, I can't see the sun through the clouds right now. But I'm trying to think about the sun through the clouds. I'm trying to think about what is this going to look like when it's all over? What's this going to look like when events are happening and people are at concerts and the streets are crowded and people are at restaurants and everybody's buying things again and the economy comes back? If I can visualize that, how can I position this company and all the companies we work for to be in a really good spot at that time? And that's keeping me up at night. That's waking me up at 5 a.m. That's keeping me up till midnight. Ideas. I've told everyone on staff here, guys, be ready. You never know at any moment, any second of the day when I'm going to throw a random idea and we're going to try something because the days are changing every day. Every day is a new day. So it's it's an odd environment, but I think those that can find a way to stay true to a direction that will keep them afloat, they'll be strong in the end and they'll make up for lost ground. Just like 2008, 2009 recession, same thing happened. A lot of businesses disappeared, but those that stayed flourished after.
Well, I was going to say, what you were just kind of talking about with, we've seen a lot of businesses that have come out of this and have grown and actually been able to kind of move with it. We have a lot of friends and things or people that we know that are small business owners all the way up to large corporations. How do you think Retro being a small business actually benefits us in this season. You were talking about how, we could just send out a Slack or a video call and be like, hey, I've got this idea, let's shift and do this. Like, how maybe does that give us the ability in this season, instead of having to lay people off because, work that we had is now gone? How does that give us the ability to actually grow even more in a season where, hundreds of people are getting laid off and businesses are closing?
Yeah, I think that, it's funny. I've never been a part of a large company, but I have worked for a lot of large companies. And the one thing that is true, and there's nothing you can do about it, that the large businesses are not as agile, and they're not as nimble, and they're not as mobile. It's hard to just change a policy. It's hard to reassign positions. It's hard to take an entire strategy for your year of sales and flip it on its back and break it apart and change it completely and start over. And, being in this small business at Retrospec, I think that works extremely to our advantage, because quite frankly, we're very small. There's a dozen of us. No, there's a dozen and a half. There's 20. I change every day. Sometimes there's 21 people here. Sometimes there's 16. I don't know.
It's hard to know. Nobody's in the building anymore.
I know who's in the building. I don't even know. As far as I know, like, me and Hightower work here. Ain't that right, Hightower? Yeah. This is an environment that is much, it's a lot like war. It's a lot like being in a storm. You don't know what's coming at you from the left or the right. So if you're not able to be agile and adjust, you're going to be in trouble. And I think that's the beautiful thing about small business. I think it's obviously I'm very glad of the SBA incentives and the various stimulus packages that are coming out in honor of small business, and the fact that small business does matter for our economy. But small businesses, we react, we know, we figure out how to survive. We don't have to go through board approvals. We don't have to go through a bunch of processes. If someone has an idea, then I'll do it tomorrow. There you go.
Yeah. And I think that you mentioned growth. I think there's two things. For myself and probably other staff members, we're doing things that we may have not done before. There's growth even personally. I would say that I feel as busy as before, but we're working on different things. Our focus has shifted. And with that shift comes a redivision of staff. And so, I think it's a good opportunity for us to just look at everything that we're doing. We had actually put out, and Jason, you did this, of okay, here's the next 30 days. We're simplifying and clarifying, and here are the roles. And I think that's super important to be able to take a look, be flexible. It keeps us in a nimble position. It keeps each staff member positive and engaged, and communicating with them is a big deal. So I think growth can happen even when it may not be our typical growth, what we see, but it can be growth that's, I can see things happening out in the studio right now that's is growth. So there's a lot to be said about using what you have what's in your hands at the moment. And of course, I'm not one for a lack of ideas. I think I slack you about 10 ideas a day, Jason. But there's more than ideas. It's simple, like finding the right ones, simplifying, and then clarifying that message to just yourself as leaders, as business owners, but also to the staff that you are leading through this crisis.
Yeah, it's funny because I thought about it yesterday and I thought, wow, what if we didn't have Slack, for example? You think about some companies just are not set up to be fully mobile. And honestly, even though we're in the building here, we tend to communicate through our computers to each other. And, I miss seeing people and I miss walking around. It's driving me crazy. But the nice thing is we are able to go mobile very easily. And I do agree, it's a time of personal growth. There are things that I certainly don't like about this environment, but I'm sure it's like 99.9% of the world right now. Nobody likes what's going on. But what do? Do you throw in the towel? Do you just pout? Do you quit? Do you stop pushing? It's funny. I always had this little analogy in my head. It's a little rock climber, mountain climber thing. But I've always felt like if you're not, and it's true, when you're rock climbing, for example, and you're climbing up something really hard, when you sit still, you're burning up your forearms and you're burning up your calves, and you are disabling yourself to go farther when you sit still. And so eventually you fall. That's what happens. when you're on something really hard, sometimes the best way to do it is to just go and keep making progress. And I've heard many analogies, if you're not climbing up, then you're sliding down. That's it. And I think that's true for us too. Like right now, even though it's changed what we're doing, and I know we have to be mobile and we have to completely, social distance and all those different factors, but we can still make progress, because if we're not making progress, then we are going back. And I'm just not the kind of person that's willing to go back in time. And so, it has been unique. Individual growth, changing of roles, flexibility of roles, cleaning of the studio over and over again. Ain't that right, Hightower? Oh, yeah. We built 4 shelves today at 6 o'clock in the morning. That's right.
I think that just goes to show, though, that like there's not a single person at this company that isn't willing to do whatever they can to make the company succeed, and then in return make themselves succeed. And I don't think that's a selfish thing. I think it's, and I might be just speaking for myself, but it's like I'm invested in this company. I want to see it grow, not just so that I can get a paycheck and survive whatever this season is, but it's like I want to come out on the other end of this and look back and be like, we weathered it. We came up with ideas. We were innovative, and we all did it from our houses. Like what now that we're all back in a building together, what more are we going to be able to do? And maybe that's kind of what we can close with. It's like, what do you like, maybe 1 or 2 things that like you want to look back when this is done and be like, we did that right. Or that is what we did that got us through this.
Yeah. I mean, I think that the phrase purified by fire, I think is a meaningful one to me. You don't learn a whole lot about people's character in their best case scenario. Okay, they're cool, they're nice, they're happy. It's great. When you really learn who someone is and what they can accomplish is when they are under pressure, when things are intense, when things are falling apart, when things don't look like you thought they were going to look, when things are different and unusual and stressful and anxious. Then you get to see like who elects to have true character. And it's been really cool, because I think during this time, I mean, I think I've probably taken as much pride in hiring people or listening to the suggestions you guys have on hiring people, maybe more so than anything. How much character, how much integrity can we have inside this company? How supportive can we be? How well can we work together like a team? How much can we have each other's back? I mean, these things are everything to me. I often say around here, I'm like, if this team is not happy with the way their job is going, then we have completely failed, because the employees and the team members here are more important to me than anything else we do. And the next to that is certainly our clients. But I realize that in that order, it works better. So, I mean, I think that we will look back and we will go, wow, we found opportunity when there seemed to be no opportunity. I do think that the entertainment world is going to open wide up for us more than we expected, as we're already seeing with various things. And I think that we are going to find a way to come out even better off than we started this whole pandemic. And I think that we're going to be closer together. And I'll be really thankful for that. I mean, I think it does take leadership. I'm certainly doing the best that I can to navigate, I guess, this ship, for lack of better terms, through this storm and make sure that I'm turning in the right spots and that I'm safeguarding us from dangers. But, I'm making sure I wake up early and stay up late to do that. And, and we've got lots of leadership in this company that's doing the same thing all the way down. So, that's kind of what I see.
That's good. Yeah. One thing to add to that is, if this time has done nothing else, it's to live one day at a time. Tomorrow's worries are going to come tomorrow. My motto, I guess, or one sentence I've come up with is make the next best decision. And then once that's done, make the next best decision. And that's kind of where I've stood. But I can agree, though, with Jason, is that watching, literally, I feel like we've even come closer together, even though we're further apart, with the amount of people on staff who want to see everything succeed. And it's not, to me, it's not driven by greed or money or personal gain by any means. It's literally, they just want to be back in the building and thriving and prospering as we go forward. Yeah. So it is fun to kind of see on that level, none of this is fun right now, but it's nice to see there's a little bit of an intrinsic reward to watch, like you said, how people are reacting and what they're saying and the positivity that's coming from it. And it does translate to the clients. We've worked for some clients for 15 plus years, and those are the clients that are asking us for help right now. And it's not because they maybe not have any, they don't have or think we're smarter than them or we have better decisions. It's just that we are part of their fabric of their business and we are here to help them. So I think that does translate back down. And, at this point, I have every confidence in this that we will see the other side. And I do agree that we're going to see some new opportunities that we probably wouldn't have seen before this.
Well, I think that's all we got for today. But thank you for listening, and just keep an eye out on this channel and anything that you're listening from, whatever platform, because we're going to just do our best to just keep pumping out content. And yeah, we appreciate you guys.
HT, can you give a sign off?
Woo woo!
All right.
Awesome. That's the first time HT's ever been at a loss for words.
I know, right?